She threw the champagne flute at my speaker. That was the exact moment I knew the HOA president had completely lost control. She'd been standing on my pool deck in a white caftan, hosting 38 uninvited guests at a party she called the Hartwell Pool Summer Soiree. She was about to cut a wedding-style cake with my name on it. Then my pre-recorded message boomed across the patio at 110 decibels. The underwater LEDs strobed red. The main drain valve opened wide and the gate latches locked. She turned, screamed, and threw the flute at the speaker. It bounced off, the message kept playing. The pool kept draining, and my recorded voice told all 38 of her guests that this was private property. The police were on their way, and ABC 15 News was already filming. Tell me below, would you have shut it down sooner? Or let her own party finish her career? My name is Reed Donovan. I'm 49 years old. I'm a mechanical engineer, and for the last 21 years, I've designed hydraulic and automation systems for industrial water treatment plants out of an office park in Tempe, Arizona. If you've ever turned on a tap in Phoenix, there's a small chance the fail-safe valve you didn't know existed was something I helped specify. I'm the guy who builds the little brain that decides when a pump shuts off, when a backup kicks in, and when an alarm starts screaming. I tell you this because that brain ended up living in my backyard pool. We'll get to that 3 years ago. My wife, Carolyn, was driving home on I-10 when a semi-truck blew its brakes and crossed 3 lanes of traffic at 68 miles an hour. They held her on machines for 19 days. Owen was 9, Ivy was 6. We had 3 weeks to know that we were losing her, and then we lost her. Carolyn had been a swim instructor at the YMCA for 15 years. She taught water aerobics for pregnant women. The kids called her classes the Bubble Ladies. After the funeral, Owen and Ivy stopped going near water. Bath time became a fight. Beach trips became panic attacks. I sold our house in Mesa, packed everything that smelled like Caroline into climate-controlled storage, and bought a place in Saguaro Heights, a master-planned community in Chandler with a big east-facing yard. Then I built them a pool. I designed the whole thing myself. Industrial-grade automation, smart valves, networked LED lighting, autochlorination, variable speed pumps that ran whisper quiet, a biometric gate latch that logged every entry by user, 6 IP cameras for liability and insurance, a mosaic tile pattern at the bottom, waves and dolphins that Caroline had sketched on a paper napkin 2 months before she died. It took me 11 months to build, the day I filled it for the first time. Owen sat on the edge with his feet in the water and cried. Ivy held my hand for 3 weeks before she let go and pushed off the wall by herself. That pool wasn't a pool, that pool was a love letter. That pool was a way to give my kids back the part of their mother. They were losing. Saguaro Heights had a community pool too. Or it was supposed to by the time we'd moved in. The community pool had been closed for renovations for 9 months. Every quarterly HOA meeting, the same answer from the board president. Vendor delays, permit issues. Supply chain by the time we got to month 14. Residents were grumbling, but nobody pushed. People in Phoenix don't fight over pools in October. They wait until April. The HOA president was Bryn Hallowell, 51 years old, platinum blonde. The kind of style that requires a standing appointment. Drove a champagne BMW X7, wore Lululemon sets and Hermes scarves, and oversized Tom Ford sunglasses that hid half her face. She introduced herself to me at our welcome barbecue by walking across the patio in pearl heels on 110-degree pavers and informing me which neighbors I should make an effort with. I should have known then. The first sign of trouble came on a Friday in July. I was in Tempe, finishing a valve spec for a Yuma client when my phone buzzed. Travis Beaumont, a retired American Airlines captain, lives directly across from me, had texted, "Hope you don't mind the pool party. At your place looks fun. Bryn told us you opened it up for the summer." I read it twice. I picked up my keys. The drive home took 22 minutes. I came in the front, walked through the kitchen, slid open the back door, and there they were. 14 people, my duck float. The one I'd given Ivy on her 7th birthday, being sat on by a man I'd never seen. My pool noodles scattered, my iron table covered in glass. Bryn smiled at me like I was the late guest at her party that night, after the strangers left and I'd put the kids to bed. I went out to the garage office and pulled the smart lock. Log 47 gate openings in 90 days. every single one between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. When she knew I was at work, I sat in my chair for a long time, looking at Caroline's photo on the bookshelf. Then I started writing new code. I wasn't going to argue with Bryn Hallowell. I was going to let the locks do it for me. By Sunday night, I had finished rewriting the gate access protocol. Old code, anyone with the 4-digit PIN got in. New code. Gate required either my biometric thumbprint or a one-time access code. I personally approved through my phone. I rotated the master PIN to a 32-character alphanumeric string and stored it nowhere except inside the latch's local memory. I added 3 more IP cameras, one inside a fake birdhouse mounted on the patio post, one inside a hollow fake saguaro from a yard art store on Arizona Avenue 1, inside a ceramic vase by the hot tub. The whole system fed into a closed network server I tucked behind the irrigation timer in my garage. Monday morning, while I was making the kids' lunches, Bryn's mass email went out to all 320 households on the Saguaro Heights. HOA listserv friendly reminder neighbors. The Hartwell Pool community access continues this season. Mr. Donovan has been unwilling to honor the previous agreement, but the HOA's legal counsel is reviewing the matter. In the meantime, please continue to use the pool as scheduled. Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. bring towels and snacks. Owen read the email over my shoulder. He was 12. He looked at me and said, "Dad, is she allowed to do that?" I told him she was not. I didn't reply to the email. I didn't post on Nextdoor. I didn't call her Saturday at 1:58 in the afternoon. 16 people in pool gear walked up my driveway with totes over their shoulders, expecting the gate to swing open. It did not. They tried the keypad. They tried the intercom. A gray-haired woman in a sun visor pressed the button and waited. I stepped onto my patio with a glass of iced tea and spoke through the smart speaker mounted by the gate. My voice came out calm and amplified. "Folks, this is private property. There is no HOA agreement, and there never has been. You're welcome to enjoy our community pool when it reopens. Please head home." The woman in the visor frowned. "Bryn told us you'd be difficult." "Bryn lied to you, ma'am." They stood there for another 20 seconds looking at each other. Then they shuffled back down the driveway, all except one. A young woman in her early 30s, dark blonde ponytail who hung back. She didn't leave with the group. She walked up to the gate alone and pressed the intercom. "Mr. Donovan, my name is Joel Wexford. I just moved into Section 6. I'm so sorry, I had no idea this wasn't approved." "What's the actual story?" I told her in 2 minutes everything I'd put together. She listened when I finished. She sent me a screenshot of Bryn's original email through the HOA app. Then she said, "I'm a nurse. I'm not great at politics, but I'd like to help if I can." I told her to listen and stay quiet for now. She said she would that afternoon. I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop and pulled 6 months of smart lock data into a spreadsheet. I cross-referenced every gate opening against my calendar at work. Every single unauthorized entry happened during business hours. Every single one was Bryn's PIN. The pattern was so regular it looked like a heartbeat. There's something worth knowing if you ever find yourself in a fight with an HOA. Arizona has a statute called a RS 33-1805 under that law. Every single member of an HOA has the right to inspect the association's financial records on request, and the board has 10 business days to produce them. Failure to comply is a civil violation. Most boards count on you not knowing this. Most boards count on you giving up. I emailed Lorraine Pickett, the HOA board treasurer, that night. I requested 2 years of financial records under ARS 33-1805. I copied my newly hired attorney. Spencer Bellamy. Lorraine answered in 11 minutes. "Mr. Donovan, can we meet in person tomorrow morning?" Coffee Roost on Arizona Avenue, 7:30. "I have things to show you." I read her email twice, then I closed the laptop. Walked outside in my bare feet on the cooling concrete, and watched the saguaros turn from gold to purple. As the sun dropped behind the South Mountain Ridge, something was about to break wide open. I just didn't know yet how wide. Lorraine Pickett at 7:30 in the morning. Looked like every grandmother you've ever trusted. 64 years old, silver pixie-cut reading glasses on a beaded chain. A navy cardigan even in July, because she said the air conditioning at Coffee Roost was an interrogation room. She bought my coffee before I could pull my wallet out. Then she set an accordion folder on the table and put both hands flat on top of it. "Rid, I've been waiting 2 years for somebody to ask me what I'm about to tell you, but I want to tell you in 3 parts. The first part is what Bryn does. The second part is why nobody stops her. The third part is what I think is actually going on with the money. I told her to start she did for 40 minutes. Walking back to my truck after that breakfast, I felt the sun on my face for the first time all week. I wasn't smiling, I was just understanding. That same afternoon, while I was finishing a remote conference call from my home office, my phone vibrated with a push alert. Biometric scan failed at front gate. 3 seconds later, a second alert. Back gate intrusion sensor triggered. I switched my laptop to the camera feed, and there it was on screen. A white pickup truck with no markings. 2 men in matching gray polos and ball caps. One had bolt cutters. He was standing at my back gate. The latch was already off, as I watched 4 people in swimsuits walk through the open gate. Carrying coolers, Bryn appeared from the side in her white caftan, directing them like a hostess. I didn't yell, I didn't call them. I called Spencer Bellamy. Spencer is 61. He'd represented 2 of the elderly couples. Bryn had previously bullied out of Section 4. He answered on the first ring and listened to my live narration for 2 minutes. Then he said very calmly, "Read. This is criminal trespass first degree under Rs 13-1. Find the 04 Class 6 felony when entering a fenced residential yard. Regardless of damage, drive home now. Don't engage, photograph everyone. Then drive directly to Chandler PD. With your evidence, I made the 22-minute drive in 14. By the time I pulled into my driveway, the back gate was still propped open. 4 of the 6 trespassers were lounging on my deck, and Bryn was nowhere to be seen. I parked at the curb so I had the angle on every car license plate. I photographed every face. I photographed the open gate, the bolt cutters left on the patio, the cooler, then I drove to Chandler PD. Without saying one word to anyone. Officer Ryland Cosgrove was the desk sergeant on shift. Mid-40s square jaw. The patient look of a cop who dealt with HOA complaints for years. He took my evidence, looked at the photos, and said, "Sir, this is the 3rd trespass complaint at a Saguaro Heights private residence this summer. Your name keeps coming up because she keeps doing this, but you're the first one with a smart lock log to prove it." He had 2 deputies dispatched to my address. Within 18 minutes, 4 of the trespassers had already left. 2 were citations served and identified by name. Bryn's BMW had been seen leaving the area at high speed. The deputies followed standard procedure and didn't pursue. When Cosgrove called me back that evening, he said, "Mr. Donovan, I'm going to give you a name. Annika Strickland. She's the HO. A ombudsman at the Arizona Attorney General's office. If you want to take this beyond just trespass, she's the call to make." I wrote down Annika Strickland's number. I put it in my notebook, beside the spreadsheet from Lorraine's accordion folder. That night, Owen sat on the edge of my bed in his pajamas. He was 12. He had Caroline's quiet way of asking the heaviest question. In the smallest voice, "Dad, are we going to have to move again?" I sat up. I put my hand on his shoulder. I made sure he saw my eyes. "No, buddy. Not this time. This time we make her move." He thought about that. He nodded once. Then he went to bed. I sat in the dark for a long time, listening to the pool pump cycle softly outside. Bryn's response to losing access to my pool came in 3 forms over the next 8 days, and each one was worse than the last. The first arrived as official mail on Monday, a formal HOA violation notice signed by Bryn Hallowell as president, finding me $2,500 for non-compliant LED color scheme. During nighttime hours, my pool lights, which I'd programmed to shift from warm white to soft blue after 9 p.m., a feature I'd designed specifically because the slow color change calmed Ivy down enough to fall asleep, were apparently violating an aesthetic standard nobody on the board had ever voted on. I forwarded the notice to Spencer. He laughed for 10 seconds before responding. "Read, there is no such standard in your CCNRs. I checked, this is a fabricated violation. We file it as harassment evidence." The second arrived as a phone call to my home Wednesday afternoon from Maricopa County Health Department. An anonymous neighbor had filed a complaint about improper pool sanitation, creating a public health risk. A county inspector would be coming out within 48 hours. I didn't argue. I told the woman on the phone I'd welcome the inspection and I asked her to bring a pen. The third arrived overnight Thursday into Friday. At 2:00 a.m., my saguaro decoy camera triggered on motion. I checked the alert in the morning before the kids were awake. The footage showed a person in a dark hoodie, slipping over my back fence at the corner farthest from the house, crouching low, walking to the pool skimmer, pouring something dark from a plastic jug, then leaving 3/4 of a gallon of motor oil floating on top of my pool. When I went out at 6:00 a.m., the hoodie hid the face, but the camera captured two details that mattered. A pair of Hermes leather sandals with a distinctive gold buckle. Bryn wore them to every HOA meeting. And 80 yards down the street, parked headlight off the unmistakable champagne paint of a BMW X7. Most people finding motor oil in their pool would have started cleaning immediately. I did not. I let the oil sit. I called the Maricopa County Health Department back myself, and I asked them to send the inspector that morning, instead of within 48 hours. The inspector, a wiry man in his mid-50s named Carl Bookman, arrived at 9 sharp. He saw the oil. He saw my cameras. He looked at the timestamps. Then he looked at me. With the small smile of a guy who'd seen a lot in his career. "Mr. Donovan," he said, "somebody really wants you to fail this inspection. I'm going to mark it as evidence of malicious tampering. Instead, I'm filing a separate report with my office. Would you like a copy?" I had the pool drained and refilled professionally that afternoon. It cost me $2,800, but I had something worth a lot more. A second official county report, tying somebody to my property who shouldn't have been there. That evening, Spencer, Lorraine, and I met in my kitchen with Annika Strickland of the Attorney General's office. On speaker, Annika was 38. All business, the kind of voice that didn't waste a word. She'd already pulled the AZ Corporation Commission filings on the vendor Lorraine had flagged earlier. She'd already cross-checked Maricopa County permit records. "Mr. Donovan," she said, "I'd like to ask you to keep doing exactly what you've been doing. For 3 more weeks, don't escalate. Don't confront, let Mrs. Hallowell continue to think she's winning. I need time to coordinate something larger than a trespass case. Here's the thing about Arizona. Revised Statute 13-231. Oh, fraudulent schemes and artifices. It's a Class 2 felony that's the heaviest fraud charge in the state. 4 to 10 years of prison and mandatory restitution. To bring it, prosecutors need a documented scheme to defraud, combined with a benefit obtained. Most embezzlement cases never get there, because nobody connects the scheme to the benefit. Most embezzlement cases settle quietly inside the boardroom. We were not going to be most cases. I told Annika she had her 3 weeks. That night, I drove out to Travis Beaumont's house, and we sat on his porch with 2 beers. I didn't tell him everything. I just asked if he could keep the kids for 1 Saturday in 3 weeks. He said, of course. Then he asked very quietly, "Reed, what are you planning?" I said, "I'm planning to drain the pool." He looked at me a long moment. Then he tipped his bottle and said, "Tell me when I'll be ready." 2 nights after Annika's call, the 4 of us sat at my kitchen island, with Lorraine's accordion folder open. Across the granite, Spencer had a yellow legal pad. Annika was on Zoom. The kids were at a sleepover at Travis's house. I'd ordered Thai food that none of us had touched. Lorraine started with the math. 320 households at $640 each. $248 in annual HOA dues. Of that, $80 per household. $25,600 per year was line itemed for the pool maintenance and reserve fund. The reserve had been built over 6 years to a balance of $112,000. By the start of 2024, the current reserve balance was $24,600. 80 cents of it, $400 gone. Lorraine flipped to the vendor invoices. 18 separate checks over 18 months. Everyone payable to a single vendor. Aqua Rescue Services LLC total almost to the $87,400. Annika took over from Phoenix. Aqua Rescue Services LLC is registered in Nevada. Sole member is one Devlin Marchetti. The mailing address on file is 2419 Mesquite Trail, Chandler. I cross-checked that address. Is the converted basement studio at the back of Bryn and Royce Hallowell's residence. Devlin Marchetti is Bryn's brother-in-law. He's been living there rent-free for 2 years. Spencer wrote brother-in-law on his legal pad and underlined it twice. Aqua Rescue Services has filed 0 tax returns. No business license, no website, no phone, no insurance. There is no record of a single contractor plumber. electrician, or pool tech, ever pulling a permit at the Saguaro Heights Community Pool. Over the entire 14 months, it's been closed. Not one Lorraine flipped to a printed permit search. Now the kicker. Royce Hallowell has pulled 3 permits at his own property in the same 14-month window. New in-ground pool built in Spa. Outdoor kitchen with plumbing and gas. Total declared project value $94,800. The room got very quiet. Spencer put down his pen. They didn't just steal the pool fund. I said they built a backyard with it. Lorraine said I sat with that. Outside, a hot wind moved through. The saguaros and the cicadas sounded like a circuit board overheating. I thought about the kids next door at Travis's. I thought about Caroline. I thought about the 14 strangers on my dead wife's mosaic. One question was still hanging Annika. Why my pool? Why not just leave us alone? After the embezzlement was set up, she didn't pause because if she keeps board members and influential residents enjoying a luxury pool every Saturday, they don't ask why the community pool is still closed. They don't audit. They don't notice their dues vanishing. Your pool is the bribe. She wasn't being generous to your neighbors. She was using your pool to buy their silence. While she stole their money, that hit me harder than I expected. Spencer cleared his throat. Red, we have her on theft, over $25,000. Class 3, felony fraudulent schemes. Class 2, felony multiple counts of criminal trespass. Class 6, each forgery. If she put community access agreement on HOA letterhead, we can do this with the police in a courtroom, or we can do it with the police, the courtroom, and the entire community as witnesses. On the same evening your call, I looked at my phone. Travis had sent a photo of Owen and Ivy eating ice cream sandwiches on his couch. They were both smiling at the same time, which they hadn't done in 2 years. We do it where everyone sees, I said, because everyone is paying for it. Annika's smile through the screen was slow and small. Mr. Donovan, give me 3 weeks and keep her thinking she's still winning. For the next 3 weeks, from the outside, nothing changed at 7 East Saguaro Bloom Lane. I went to work in Tempe. The kids went to school. What was happening underneath you couldn't see from the road. Spencer Bellamy mailed anything Bryn destroyed became spoliation, a separate criminal charge. Annika Strickland at the Attorney General's office formally opened her investigation. She subpoenaed Aqua Rescue Services, LLC's bank records through the Nevada Secretary of State. Within 5 business days, she referred the parallel tax fraud question to the Arizona Department of Revenue. She told me on a Friday night phone call, Mr. Donovan, this woman has been protected by 3 layers. Board apathy, neighbor. Exhaustion in your kindness. We just removed the first layer. Don't blink, I didn't blink. I added 6 more cameras along the property line. Ultra HD this time, hidden inside cedar bark housings I carved by hand. On weekday evenings while watching old reruns of Westerns, I ran a perimeter laser break beam from the side gate to the back fence. The whole system fed alerts directly to my phone. Every motion logged with a timestamp accurate. To the second, then I built the trap. I called it the Pool Defense Protocol. A single button on my phone, triggering 6 separate actions in 90 seconds.